Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. As it turns out, it looks like Judge McCormick does have an email. It's kathleen.mccormick@delaware.gov. Sending a physical letter would still be the preferred option, but if you wanted to double up, that might be a viable solution. Shout out to Crypto Keeper and David for finding and confirming that email. Here's her information on a membership roster. Just remember, keep it classy out there. Correction from yesterday, I misspoke. That $288.9 thousand rate was per hour per lawyer working on that Delaware case. Also, with regard to my subtle jab at Elon's grammar at the end of this post, turns out that's actually proper German. And thank you for all of the feedback on the rounding situation. After taking it all in, I'm going to stick with the decimal. I just prefer the bit of extra precision. Right now, it's sounding like the Giga Berlin situation is going to be a bit worse than we thought. Today, Tesla said they're expecting Giga Berlin to have no electricity until March 17th. A spokesperson said the plant is expected to be without electricity until the end of next week. March 17th is actually a Sunday, so not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. Ordinarily, Wall Street analysts don't update their Tesla delivery targets until the last 2 weeks of the quarter, but not the case this time around, as on this news, Baird is lowering their Q1 estimate to 421,000. The Wall Street estimate still sits at 489,000, but this is not at all where quarter one is trending. And again, this number usually isn't updated by most analysts until the end of the quarter. The way things are trending for Tesla's Q1 right now, they're flirting with being flat year over year. Q1 last year, Tesla did 422.9 thousand deliveries. If Giga Berlin really is without electricity until the end of next week, we could be looking at a 12 to 15,000 unit loss when this is all said and done. If there's any silver lining here, it's that all of the politicians and industry officials are coming out and backing Tesla, offering to do what they can to help. This also goes beyond Tesla. We have the German industry calling for better protection of critical infrastructure. Unfortunately, the protection of this infrastructure urgently needs to be adapted to the changed security situation. It's essential that investors continue to see Germany as a safe country. The government is simultaneously warning against alarmism, saying that this was just one instance. The problem with that is it's not. We just talked yesterday. This very same group launched a similar attack 3 years ago. One rather interesting thing about this arson attack at Giga Berlin, there are some other all EV factories in Germany that, as far as we know, are not being attacked. VW has an all-EV plant in Zwickau. Mercedes has some EV operations at its German factories. You get the picture. All I'm saying is I would like to know why this volcano group is so seemingly fixated on Tesla alone. Rohan Patel has come out swinging, sharing some facts about Giga Berlin. Their vehicle production uses 33% less than the industry average. They recycle up to 100% of their industrial water. They have over 8 megawatts of installed solar capacity, and they source renewable electricity. Afforestation, aka building new forests for Giga Berlin, is faster than construction. 300 hectares of high-quality forest, over 60% hardwood, has been planted. They're making ecological improvements to the existing forest through underplanting hardwood. They incentivize sustainable living. 45% of their employees commute by public transport. We've talked about their shuttle train to the factory. That's free of charge. Tesla has installed those 500 wall connectors, free for public use. Of the 12,000 employees at Giga Berlin, 1,500 of them were unemployed, and another 700 were long-term unemployed. They partner with 13 different schools, and they're the biggest apprenticeship employer in Brandenburg. And Rohan briefly discussed Tesla's economic impact on the region that we've been over numerous times in the past. It really is this type of information that Tesla probably should have been disseminating a bit wider over the past few years. Clearly, not having a PR department does come with some trade-offs. Here we have Florian Minderop, who I cannot vouch for at all. He's the co-founder and CEO of Mr. Green EV, building a Tesla FSD autonomous fleet. He said, breaking news, FSD is coming to Europe in 2025. The new regulation is adopted. I'll keep you posted when we have more information. I went to the website to click around. We did mention last week this meeting was coming up. It's being held from March 5th to March 8th. He did clarify in the comments, yes, FSD Beta. I can't confirm it right now, but this certainly could be legit. You may remember last week we said at this meeting they're discussing some pretty important legislation for FSD's future in Europe. By this post, maybe things went very well. According to the regulatory body, Tesla will have to submit an outline of the system's design for approval. According to TeslaScope, a launch could come as soon as October in some European countries. Once it's released, Tesla will have to provide updates to regulators at least once per year. It should be clear this new regulation does not cover fully autonomous driving. It still requires the driver to remain engaged and responsible for the car at all times. The regulation that was reportedly adopted establishes a standardized framework for systems that support a combination of driving control assistance features like braking, accelerating, and overtaking, not just cruise control. Hopefully toward the end of this week we get something official, and I would have to add here, just because Tesla gets the green light and they're approved to launch FSD Beta there does not mean they're going to rush at the opportunity right away. I still think they want to get version 12 right in the United States before they start focusing on too many global markets. If this turns out to be true, and whenever Tesla decides to launch FSD there, that of course will mean exciting times for the global take rate of Tesla's FSD, especially if it's version 12. In the United States, Tesla customers can now get up to 10,000 free supercharging miles on a new Model S, X, or Y vehicle if you take delivery by the end of March. And with this one, it sounds like there's no leniency if you take delivery after that date. If you trade in your vehicle, you can get up to those 10,000 miles. They still expire 2 years after the delivery date. This offer excludes leasing. A senior account manager for Tesla in France is posting on LinkedIn about a new Model Y business variant. This will be a 2-seat Model Y, and he said it'll be available exclusively in various stores in France. Contact your business-to-business advisor to find out more. This vehicle will have more storage space, more range, and they're saying it is eligible for commercial vehicle taxation. Here's an image of what this will look like: less weight, more range, and France has a significant commercial fleet that's mostly diesel, so Tesla clearly going after that market. For now, it's not clear if Tesla has any plans to roll out this variant elsewhere globally. Over the past 6 to 9 months, France has really been challenging Germany for becoming Tesla's biggest market in terms of the European Union. You love to see Tesla getting creative during this stagnant growth phase. If you look at this chart from Roland, it's showing us Tesla sales in Europe by month and quarter. If you look at the totals though, dating back to Q4 of 2022, you can see Tesla sales overall in Europe really have been very stagnant. They've been flat or down now for the last 4 quarters. For Q1 of this year, looking at year-over-year data, we are indeed ahead of pace, adding January and February, but March had a huge year in Q1 last year. We've talked about China's wholesale sales being behind last year's pace. Europe may be flat or even behind pace. In the United States, Model 3 Plus production out of Fremont has been slower than expected. My point, I would just brace yourself for a rough Q1. Just some validation for my comment about Model 3 production at Fremont right now. This customer shared he got 6 different estimated delivery dates for his Model 3 Plus. Originally, he was told the beginning of February. Now he's being told the end of March. They're saying this 2-seater Model Y is going to go 565 kilometers on the WLTP cycle, which is 32 kilometers longer than the long-range Model Y, or about 20 miles. Keep in mind all of the problems Tesla is facing right now. It just gives them more opportunity to continue to innovate, to re-engineer new designs, so when this slow growth period ends, they're going to come out of it that much stronger. Chuck Cook said several Tesla ADAS drivers continue to test and validate FSD Beta 12 on his unprotected left turn. He doesn't know if the drivers are collecting data or validating software, but they continue to drive this turn over and over. James Dauma got a ride in V12 from Bradford Ferguson, and James said V12 is going to be over 100 times reduction in interventions compared to V11. This is not an incremental upgrade, it's a leap forward. I would highlight James said going to be, not necessarily necessarily that it's already there right now. James continued, "It's impressively better than V11, and I predict most FSD users are going to find the new system to be dramatically less burdensome, annoying, and scary to use. The degree to which V12 accurately mimics human driving behaviors is startling, and Tesla's ability to capture the good behaviors without the bad ones is better than I expected for such an early release. Truly impressive." I think most importantly though, he said the range of behaviors that are being effectively implemented with end-to-end path planning and control suggests to me they can get the rest of the way to better than human solely on top of more and better data and training. Elon replied saying, "Thanks, that's an accurate assessment. Training compute is currently our limiting factor, but that issue is being resolved fast." Before we even talk about what that means, it's pretty clear that at this point, for most people, version 12 is a significant improvement in terms of feeling like a human driver. That should serve as a big catalyst for more people to use the system, because for many, V11 was unusable because it's just uncomfortable. Having used V11 now for a few weeks in a city outside of California, I can confirm. More people using FSD should lead you to think about Tesla's deferred revenue. The balance at the end of last year was $3.5 billion. Tesla said on the 10K of that balance, they expect to recognize $926 million of revenue in the next 12 months. Historically, Tesla has estimated this figure on the high side and came in lower, but if the V12 rollout goes wide and goes well, this number could be conservative. So if Elon's accurate comment does refer to this last paragraph from James, what that means is Tesla doesn't need any major architectural changes anymore. All they would need is better data and more training. And if training compute is their limiting factor, but that's being resolved fast, we should be in for a very exciting 6 to 12 months of FSD progress. Tesla doesn't need to launch robotaxis to make significantly more money from FSD. And look, I know these developments have been hyped up for so long that a lot of people out there are jaded. I totally understand it, but just from a system architecture, from a structural standpoint, it finally seems like Tesla's in the place where it needs to be. But in this realm, there are always unknown unknowns, so we'll see. James also said, "Watching these really reinforces to me how much better V12 is handling these roads and parking lots that I have so much experience with in V11. It's just in a different league." People love to be encouraged by these videos of random parking lots in China with a bunch of Teslas, and then people say that demand is surging. It certainly may be true with all of the new incentives, but at the end of the day, we just have to rely on the data that comes in with the Tesla weekly numbers. This one got lost in the shuffle yesterday. Munro Live said they also got a Model 3 Plus, so they did say they are not planning to tear this one down. The Model 3 ludicrous specs continue to leak. This time we get some regulatory documents from South Korea. This vehicle will be getting a new rear motor. It's labeled as 4D2, and it's different than the Plaid rear motor, which is 5D2. This one on the Model 3 Ludicrous comes with more power, up to 303 kilowatts or 406 horsepower. Compared to the older Model 3 Performance, that rear motor was 250 kilowatts or 335 horsepower. It'll have the same front motor, so these two combined will have 461 kilowatts of power compared to the older Model 3 Performance at 377 kilowatts. That's roughly a 22% increase in power. The old Model 3 Performance rear motor reached peak power around 47 miles per hour, but with this new motor, they're saying it'll reach peak power at 68 miles per hour. Translation, more power at higher speeds. The weight will be the same as before. It'll have an 82 kilowatt hour battery pack, and they're saying around 311 miles of range on the EPA cycle. The fueleconomy.gov website was updated with eligible vehicles for either the full or partial tax credit. Now we have 17 different variants that qualify. The Cadillac Lyriq and the Honda Prologue are now both officially on the list for the full credit. The new Nissan Leaf is now one of the cheapest EVs available for sale. This one starts at $29,000 and qualifies for half of the credit. Nothing new for Tesla. Even though the Model 3 Performance is listed and it says 2024, this is still referring to the old variant none of the new refreshed Model 3s qualify for any credit. And here it is. There's currently only one electric vehicle sold in the United States that costs under $30,000 new. That title goes to the new 2024 Nissan Leaf. The Electric Viking, and no shade at all to him, but he was reporting that CATL's M3P battery was going to be used in a Tesla vehicle soon. In his defense, there was some reporting about it, but this article from the CNEV Post said CATL is still in the process of developing and validating the M3P battery with Tesla. The exact timing of the installation is not clear. They're saying the M3P battery will primarily target the market with a range of more than 700 kilometers, which is like 430 miles. But tracking it down, here's the reason why I would not hold your breath on this one. Back in August of 2022, the reporting was that CATL would start supplying M3P batteries to Tesla in the fourth quarter of 2022. That came and went along with all of 2023, and there were no reports of CATL's M3P batteries in a Tesla in 2023 either. So will Tesla use an M3P battery eventually? Most likely, but is it going to be soon? Maybe not. More people have been talking about Waymo lately. They've stayed out of negative headlines and they continue to quietly expand. The last time we got an update though on the cost of their vehicles was about 2 years ago. At the time, their CEO said, if we equip our Chrysler Pacifica van or a Jaguar I-Pace with our sensors and computers, it costs no more than a moderately equipped Mercedes S-Class, which can retail around $180,000 in the United States. Not at all to smack Waymo down, but the two biggest questions about Waymo still remain. One is profitability, and two is their ability to scale. On the first point, Alphabet does not break out anything specifically for Waymo. It's just grouped into this other bets division, which in 2023 lost over $4 billion. Then on point two, as of August last year, Waymo told us they have a fleet of about 250 driverless vehicles in San Francisco. And listen, I totally agree. I don't think Waymo and Tesla need to be competitors necessarily, but I've seen a lot more people talking about how Waymo might start driving profitability for Alphabet. I just don't think we're anywhere near that point yet. Don't get me wrong, Waymo is doing great work, but even if they were to quickly roll out to 5 new cities, they're still not operating at large scale, and they're most likely not that close to breaking even. This article from The Information is such a great reminder that Tesla making its own 4680 batteries in-house at a scale that's bigger than prototype level, how big of an accomplishment that really is. Over just the past year or so in the United States alone, the CEOs of 6 next-gen battery companies have been pushed out or resigned. A common thread in the upheaval at these companies is the industry's shift from research and development to the risky task of manufacturing at large scale. All of Lilac Solutions, Cuberg, QuantumScape, Our Next Energy, Freyr, and Enovix have all lost their CEO in the past year. Elon's always saying the same thing about production. I can't think of the quote though. Production's easy? Production's easy? Peter Rawlinson just said Lucid must not rely on the bottomless wealth of its Saudi Arabian backer as it looks to raise funds over the next year. Peter said Lucid was looking at every aspect of cost, and that should be the most obvious thing ever at this stage. While the business had enough money to last into 2025, he said it would need to raise funds again. Now, the Financial Times said Lucid had $4.8 billion of cash at the end of 2023, but that's factually not correct. Heading to Lucid's balance sheet at the end of last year, their cash and cash equivalents was $1.4 billion, not 4.8. The number they listed was actually their total current assets. That's not the same thing as cash. We all make mistakes, but coming from the Financial Times, that's somewhat sloppy. Back to what Peter said, it's inevitable we need to raise in the future, it's just a question of when. We need to pick our moment. If I adopt the mindset that there is a bottomless wealth from the PIF, that's very dangerous, that's something I will never do. I respect them far too much for that. Lucid is exploring cost-cutting measures that include bringing logistics under the same roof to reduce operating spend, looking at the bill of materials, looking at overheads, looking at reducing anything that is variable. They might need to be looking to a higher power at this point. Alex was reporting on a very sad story. A VW employee was killed in a serious accident at a plant in Emden. And honestly, shout out to all of the production workers out there at all of these companies that put in hard, dangerous hours so that we can enjoy the fruits of their labor for all of these products that we rely on, use, and hopefully really enjoy. One of the reasons I'm sharing these reports is because if, God forbid, something like this ever does happen at Tesla, I just want us all to know that it unfortunately happens at other plants as well. Don't freak out, but Elon did just meet with Donald Trump. The New York Times was reporting that Donald Trump was looking for some cash. Elon did quickly clarify, just to be super clear, I am not donating money to either candidate for US president. This one might be a bit controversial too. Bloomberg is saying that Elon emailed Tesla employees today asking them to vote for a new district attorney in Austin who will actually prosecute crimes. In the email, Elon said it was high time for change throughout the world. Elon was urging employees, mostly around Tesla's headquarters in Austin, to support Jeremy Celestine. In response, the current DA said, I'll let my opponent take the endorsement from the man who made Twitter an even more hateful, toxic stew. The tides may finally be slowly turning when it comes to public DC fast charging. Last year, the average utilization of a US fast charging station not operated by Tesla doubled from 9% in January to 18% in December. That matters because Stable Auto is estimating a charging station must be pumping electrons around 15% of the time to turn a profit. Thus, surging utilization numbers represent more stations climbing into the black for the first time. The former CEO of EVgo said, it's a threshold that truly makes my spirit soar. EVgo operates about 1,000 stations in the US, and in September, almost 1/3 of them were humming around 20% of the time. The Stable Auto CEO said there's a widespread belief in the industry that fast charging is not a profitable business, but what we're seeing is for many stations that no longer holds true. They're saying there are diminishing returns though. A charging station may not turn a profit until it's at 15% use, but once utilization approaches 30%, the station is busy enough that drivers start to avoid it. If things keep trending this way throughout 2024 with EA stations getting fixed, paired with them rolling out new flagship stations, other companies like Gravity adding more to the mix, NACS obviously opening up to other automakers and Tesla continuing its rollout, we could be in a much better public charging place toward the back half of 2025.
There's a new tool in Tempe Fire's arsenal that they hope will make the challenge of fighting electric vehicle fires a thing of the past.
It's very easy to use. It's way less kickback than any of our fire hoses.
It's called the Cold Cut Cobra. And like the reptile it references, it helps firefighters strike at the heart of a fire.
The biggest problem that we have when we fight these EV fires is getting penetration into the battery pack that's underneath, it's generally always underneath the floorboards of these vehicles.
This souped-up power washer has two modes. The first mode uses water to cut a tiny hole in objects. The next then douses whatever is on the other side of the hole with water, like a burning car battery.
It's great to have.
All right, let's see how it does with this giant steel container door.
And just like that, in a few seconds, it cut through this steel door right here, which is about an inch thick. Now, the purpose for this device is so it can cut through a car's frame. And
before, these fires take hours and hours to put out with thousands of gallons of water. With this tool, we should be able to put those fires out within 5 to 10 minutes.
OpenAI did respond to Elon. I'm not really going to get into it. I am curious though, going forward, how many of you are interested in the AI realm? Let me know below. Just say yes if you are and no if you're not. I would encourage you to read the blog post from OpenAI. I'll have it linked below if you're interested. I just want to highlight this one part. This email was sent from a redacted name to Elon. If historical trends are any indication, progress in AI is primarily driven by systems, compute, data, and infrastructure. The core algorithms we use today have remained largely unchanged from the 90s. Not only that, but any algorithmic advances published in a paper somewhere can be almost immediately re-implemented and incorporated. I think this is a core learning we all need to internalize when we think about what companies have competitive advantages in this AI future. Just remember CDI. Compute, data, infrastructure. Replying to an OpenAI post on X, Elon said, "Change your name to Closed AI and I will drop the lawsuit." BMW is taking a page out of Lucid's marketing playbook, which might not mean great things. The 2024 BMW BEV Conquest program offers a $1,000 incentive to owners of EVs from Audi, Mercedes, Polestar, Porsche, Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid to switch to a BMW i4, i5, or iX. This promo also includes owner of the Mustang Mach-E and the ID4. Tesla stock closed the day at $176.54, down 2.32%, while the Nasdaq was up 0.58%. And how about this? This might be the coolest thing we see all year. Tesla's volume today came in exactly in line with the average 30-day volume. Hope you have a wonderful day. You can find me on X linked below. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.